Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed associate marriage and family therapist. Today's video is going to be those who are pursuing therapy or those who are currently therapists. We're going to be talking about the top ethical issues and violations by marriage and family therapists and some recommendations on how to avoid them. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about three things predominantly in today's video. I'm going to talk about gifts, especially this time of year. I don't know when you're watching this video, but it's being filmed around Christmas. And this is something that is coming up for a lot of my fellow clinicians as well as subscribers. So we'll be talking about gifts. We'll also be talking about multiple relationships. This is another thing that I'm getting a lot of questions about. And we're going to talk about confidentiality, specifically times where we might have to break confidentiality and why we have to break confidentiality. So I'm just going to do this quick rundown, and I'm really sharing these top three because these are ones that I've had experience with and dealt with multiple times, whereas some of the other top ethical issues that are violated I have not experienced or had close colleagues experience. So while there are a ton of ethical dilemmas to deal with as a therapist, I'll only be going over these three today, but if you're interested in the others, please let me know that in the comments below, and I can definitely do follow-ups to this video. And I do want to pause here because this video was created in collaboration with Luisa Jewelry, and they did gift me some beautiful jewelry. It made sense for me to collaborate with them because, as you have seen in my Day in the Life of a Therapist video, jewelry is a huge part of how I feel put together enough to really feel my best when working with my clients. And I have a lot of people in my life who are also jewelry lovers, and they're always looking for affordable pieces that are long lasting. And that's exactly what Ana Luisa produces. I even love that their packaging is very minimal so they can make sure they're not producing a lot of waste. They're having their biggest sale of the year this holiday, which is perfect as you're looking for those last minute gifts. Just make sure you use the code that I have here, and I also will have it in the description box for you so that you can take advantage of the great sales that they're having over on their website. So I want to talk about gifts because around this time of year, this is where this ethical dilemma really starts to present itself. What are the rules when it comes to gifts with clients? What is allowed, what isn't allowed? And I do want to make a clarification. Ethical guidelines are very different from state laws. So you always want to make sure that if you are going based on the Marriage and Family Therapy Code of Ethics, that those ethics are legal and within your requirements by your state. And the reason that's important is because what is not permissible in court is saying, oh, I accepted this because there was no problem with it according to the Code of Ethics for marriage and family therapists. Because if you're doing something illegal, that will still lead to repercussions like possibly having your license revoked, okay? So you definitely always want to make sure that you are in accordance with your state laws. And the general way to look at it is whichever one seems to be stricter or protect clients better. If you have any competing values in the state law versus the Code of Ethics, go with whichever one has the stricter requirement that protects your clients, okay? So for example, if your state law says that you can't date a client within 10 years, but Code of Ethics says 5 years, then just go ahead and do 10 years because legally that's what you're required to do. And if it's vice versa, go with the 10 years because that's what covers you if you are brought into question by the board. So let's talk about gifts. It is talked about, but it's something that is not really emphasized because it is very tricky. When it comes to gifts, the main things that you want to think about, I would say, is the cost of the gift and the purpose of the gift. So what you want to think about with gifts is really think about the cost to the client and the impact to you. I'll share a story. I recently had a client who found out some of my personal information online. I'm not very private online, so it's not hard for them to do that. I mean, it was for the sweetest reason. She wanted to get me a gift to celebrate us working together for a year. And so that was such a sweet thought. And I was completely anxious once I found that out. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, is this appropriate, accepting a gift from a client? So I couldn't wait until supervision, which I had the following week. And my supervisor essentially said that as long as the gift is not very expensive. And she said, well, it's okay if it's something that's not over the top. So what my client had gotten me was a monogrammed mug and a bag of Skittles. She found out what my favorite candy was and got me that. And my supervisor said that was totally fine for me to accept. But there might be other supervisors or other therapists who would never accept a gift, or some who'd be willing to accept a lot more. It is a very fine line. You want to be able to essentially justify why you accepted that gift if you were to be called into question by the board or in court. My supervisor gave a great example of a gift that she received that she did have to send back. Someone gave her a very expensive gift for her child, something that was over $200. And in that case, she had to send it back. She would not accept it, or she told the client that she'd be happy to donate it if the client would be offended by her sending it back. So with the gift, you just want to make sure you're clear on your client's intentions. Make sure that there's no expectation that the services will change or that your relationship will change as a result of the gift, and also make sure that you don't feel pressure to get them a gift in return. Those are some of the things to consider when you are thinking about gifts this holiday season when it comes to your clients. The next thing I want to talk about are dual or multiple relationships. I recently had someone reach out to me on Instagram and ask me, how do I handle seeing family members or friends as clients? And do I ever feel biased? And the quick answer for that is I do not see friends and family as clients. So the first thing, when we talk about multiple relationships, you want to really stay away from that because it can severely complicate your relationship with your client. Because if they know that you already know the people that you're talking about, for example, or if you already have formed opinions on this person, if you feel like you came up in the same situation and had a different response to it, all of those things can cloud your judgment. I really believe that the power of therapy, one of the main powers, is speaking to someone who knows nothing about your situation and then being able to see it completely from your perspective. And when you have multiple relationships, it makes it really difficult. The Marriage and Family Therapy Code of Ethics does outline things like bartering, right? So you don't really want to say you can clean my house in exchange for therapy services, for example, right? Because cleaning your house, it's viewed as a service that could be possibly comparable to therapy. But the problem comes in where, let's say if you're dissatisfied with how they're cleaning your home, or maybe they become dissatisfied with the therapeutic services, or whatever the case may be, you don't want to put your client in a position where they cannot be honest with you about their experience in therapy or share things with you, because now you are in essence their boss. And the hugest no-no is dating your client. There are guidelines and state laws that prevent you from dating your clients or having sexual relationships with them. And it's something that I hear is often one of the top violations with therapists. So if you think you might be developing feelings for a client, you should definitely stop seeing them. It does not just include having sex either. You want to avoid things like hugging your clients, fondling them, cuddling with them, rubbing them. Sometimes our job is so intimate emotionally that physical intimacy seems like a natural part of the relationship. But it is actually very much frowned upon, and you should refrain from doing that only so that you can avoid anything that could re-traumatize your client or put you at jeopardy of losing your license if it's called into question. So be very careful with those types of things, because developing relationships with your client that are not professional relationships can really get in the way of the work that you need to do with that client. So be careful. All of these ethical guidelines you're going to see tie back to one thing: how can we help our clients effectively get to the goals that they have outlined in therapy, and how can we protect them while doing so? So as we talk about protecting our clients, I want to talk about the last ethical consideration, which is confidentiality. This is one of the main things that we have to think about as therapists, is how can we protect the information that our clients are sharing with us. I already shared in a previous video on my note-taking tips some of the ways that we can protect our clients' confidentiality even in our notes that are seemingly secure, just in case. And I would encourage you to take some similar precautions whenever you are discussing your client. Okay, so for confidentiality purposes, our HIPAA rules are actually very, very clear. And HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So you don't want to be clients sharing their names or information via email. You don't want to be talking with your friends or family members about specific details regarding your clients. You really should avoid talking about your clients at all to people who you are not speaking with on a professional level, like, coordinated care purposes. And even if you are doing something with coordinated care, let's say you are their therapist and you're speaking with their psychiatrist, for example. First of all, you want to make sure everything you all talked about is documented, and you need to also make sure you have a signed release from the client where they are telling you that it's okay for you to communicate what you're talking with them about to this other professional. So even in a case like that, where both professionals have had the client sign an informed consent document, you still have to get separate permission to communicate about the things that you are individually talking with the client about. So confidentiality is a very, very important ethical concern. For me, one of the main issues that I've experienced with confidentiality is when it comes to mandated reporting. And if you're not familiar with what mandated reporting is, it's essentially where there are certain conditions that your client is sharing with you that actually require you by law to break confidentiality. Some of those things include child abuse or elder abuse. Just think of it as dependent abuse. If there's someone who can't really defend themselves or care for themselves, and you have a client who is admitting harm either by themselves or by someone else within the home, that you do have to report any child or elder abuse. There are no time limits when it comes to reporting the abuse. Even if the child, if it was 5 years ago, if they're still a minor, you are required to make that report. Now, however, you aren't required to make a report if an adult client admits that they were abused as a child. That's not a requirement by law. Also, another tricky situation is danger to self. I've definitely had several clients who've come to me and been very suicidal, and deciding how to act in those situations, because you still want to maintain the client's confidentiality, but you want to protect your client. Again, it's always going to go to how can you help them reach their goals and how can you protect them while doing so. And so you don't want to reveal unnecessary information to family members, for example, if you are concerned about the client's safety. And there are other precautions you could take. You could have them try to sign a no suicide contract or come up with a suicide safety plan with them. But ultimately, if you feel like the client is at a very high risk for committing suicide or self-harm, a lot of times you can communicate to the client that you feel that you need to contact their close relative or family member to let them know about your concerns. Again, check your state laws, because this is a very, very particular issue by state, and check with your supervisors or higher ups to see what your agency or practice policy is. And then lastly, when it comes to confidentiality, danger to others, this is where you have a duty to warn and protect others. If your client is giving you a specific person that they are planning to hurt or harm, it is your duty to warn that person. There might be some provisions of law that only require you to notify the police and then it's in their hands, or to hospitalize the client if you feel that it might be the result of maybe delusions or hallucinations, something psychological that can be treated in a hospital. Those are some of your other options. But these are the moments where that blanket confidentiality for our clients, those are the moments where you have to really consider, what does protecting your client really mean? Does protecting your client mean not saying anything, or does protecting your client mean including forces that can actually help your client either to preserve their life or preserve the life of someone in their life, keep your client out of jail, for example? Those are ways that we have to challenge ourselves when we're thinking about that blanket confidentiality and where its limits are. So I hope you found this video helpful. I'm just sharing with you all some of the things to consider, especially this holiday season, as you are approaching different dilemmas while working with your clients. There are so many more ethical issues that we could discuss. If you found this useful or helpful, please let me know. If there are other things you'd like me to discuss, the Marriage and Family Therapy Code of Ethics can be kind of difficult to interpret. So I'm happy to share with you my interpretations of what I've read in the Code of Ethics. And this is also an important aspect of taking your marriage and family therapy exam. So you want to be familiar with how to make the best textbook decision in some of the most common issues presented in therapy. Let me know your questions down below. Make sure you check out Anna Luisa's holiday sale on their website, again using my code below and in the description box. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short. I ask that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it. I really appreciate you for watching all the way until the end. That really helps me. Thank you.